My name's Karrie Pelchat. I'm the final assembly and electronics manager. I've been at PRS for about 15 years, and let's get to it. So this is Nancy Dennis. She is part of the kit room. What she's doing is printing out the paperwork and looking at the ModCat and what this particular guitar is calling for, and she grabs all the parts. She picks out the pickups, the drop-in, and the jacks, tuners. So after the kit is fully assembled and ready to go, she walks it out to the guitar that the kit is waiting for, places it there, and then the next step is the tuner installation guy this is Cole. He reams the headstocks, opens up the holes, makes sure everything's reamed out good enough, no marks are left. And he also installs the grommets if needed. So the reason why we take the finish out of the holes is because Paul Smith would like everything to be touching pretty much bare wood. This helps with potentially more resonance with the instrument. So next we have JP. He is doing the other side of the pre-assembly work tuner bench. He is reaming the bridge holes, opening them up just a little bit, enough so we can push those tiny plugs through. So this process, he is pushing out plugs. So we want as little finish as possible, like inside those holes. The plugs do that for us so we can have the screws touch bare wood to make sure everything is connected very well. So he's pretty much opening, clearing out all this finish. He's installing the strap buttons. Hand tightening is important. We don't want any finish lifts. He's being very careful not to ding or damage this guitar. It comes through QC first, which is checked and looked over for any imperfections the guitar might have. So right now he's just installing the claw for the trem. So once JP is done with the guitar, he puts it back in the rack, and then it is placed into pre-assembly. The pre-assembler, this is Nick. He will grab the guitar once it's finished, bring it back to his bench, and start his pre-assembly process. As you can see, he has the kit with all the parts. Right now he is installing the tuners. Here he is waxing the bridge holes to make sure there's enough lubrication and they don't get stuck in the guitar, and then lays the bridge. So after installing the bridge, he is setting the claw height, and he will add for this particular model, Piezo, add 5 tremolo springs to the back. So here he is pretty much doing a roundabout bridge height for getting it ready for the setup guys. Our core models are at 2/32. And then here he is installing the Piezo board. Here he is soldering the positive and negative to the battery door. Now he's installing the drop-in. So the Piezo has a few extra steps for installation than a normal core model. You have to adjust the volumes, solder the board to the actual drop-in. So right now he's soldering the leads from the Piezo to the volume pot. We like to tin our wires to help better stick to the components. It's a bit of a process, but at the end of the day, this is to ensure everything works properly and functions correctly. So once all the soldering is complete, we do a tap test to ensure like everything works correctly. They test the volume, tone. We'll tap the individual saddles on the bridge, make sure everything has, you know, full sound, nothing sounds weak or isn't working properly. So after tap testing, he writes in his signature and signs off on it and hands the guitar to the setup guys. And then we have Joe Norton. He will grab the guitar and get ready for setup. He does a quick look over. And right now he's oiling the neck, removing any tape residue. So here he's scraping out any finish that might be in the nut slot. When we glue the nut, we want to make sure that the glue is actually connected to bare wood. So here he's rough fitting the nut, taking off little as possible, trying to get the right height. He's testing the first fret height with feeler gauges to see if he might have to take any more off the nut itself. And then going back and forth a little bit, trying to get the right height and making the nut look good by getting rid of any jagged edges, making sure there's no sharp corners, that it feels good, getting rid of any sanding scratches that there might be. Here he's adding the glue to the nut, making sure it's spread evenly to ensure good coverage. He's now pressing it on, making sure it's lined up. So we do use an accelerant, and it's to help speed up the process a little more. Here he is scraping any glue that might have squeezed out between the nut and the fingerboard. So here he is installing the strings. We use PRS signature strings on all of our Maryland-made guitars, which, by the way, are available at your PRS website. So here Joe is locking down the cap screws on the tuners. He leaves a little bit of slack just so he can get a good wrap around the tuning peg. So he'll tune the guitar up and make sure everything sounds and works right. So here he is scraping the end of the fingerboard to get rid of any glue that might be left or finish to ensure that the neck pickup sits flush against the fingerboard. He's now lining up the pickups to make sure they align with the neck and the strings of the guitar. So he's going to drill out the pickup mounting screws and then seat them. The measurements in assembly are very particular. So now he's tuning up the guitar, making sure that they meet spec. He's adjusting the claw heights to make any adjustments that may be needed. Joe is stretching the strings. He's tuning between each step. He's adjusting the relief, double checking again with the feeler gauges and readjusting relief if needed. This is sort of a back and forth process to get it exactly within Paul's specs. Joe has been here for quite a while. He knows these guitars in and out. Joe has his capo directly on top of the first fret, so this helps make the relief measurements more accurate. So Joe is measuring the string height at the first fret. This helps him know whether or not to make any adjustments to the nut slots by filing. This is a back and forth process to make sure the guitar meets PRS specs. Any cutting filing that may be needed. After Joe is done setting up the guitar, he's going to play test it, make sure all the electronics work, the pickup heights are adjusted to where they need to be, and then he's going to bring it over to test out the piezo system. He's also balancing the volumes between the magnetic and the piezo system. So once Joe's done checking and making any adjustments to the piezo, he brings the guitar back to his bench, writes a hang tag, filling everything out. He'll scan it to the computer, and then he'll hand it off to QC, which they do pretty much a whole nother entire inspection of the guitar.